Alright, stop recording. I'm recording! So, before we begin, let me give a quick little correction to something that I said last episode of my Watchmen reviews. It actually turns out that this show is going to be premiering and showing on Sunday nights at about 9 o'clock on HBO. So, it's actually going to be a lot more in tune with my schedules, which allows me to watch it and be able to review it here on my channel. So, I'm now starting a series called Watching Watchmen, very much like my Titans Talk series. I'm now going to be reviewing Watchmen called Watching Watchmen. In this case, it's going to be Watching Watchmen, talking about season number 1, episode number 2. Now, I probably won't say the titles of the videos or titles of the episodes. I'll just put it in the video because they are excruciatingly long and I will never remember what they're called because they're not just one or two names. They're like a full sentence of long words. Now to the episode. All right, so based on my last episode of Watching Watchmen that you can now find on my channel, this episode number 2, was actually a lot better and a lot easier for me to follow for some reason. I felt like it was a little bit less everywhere and scattered. I think because the first episode has to focus so much on the world building that it's kind of difficult to get into a show, usually on the first couple of episodes. But the second episode was way better than the first one. I was able to engage a lot more. The characters were a lot more interesting. There was a little bit more of a mystery to it. Now that we kind of have this character who's in the wheelchair that is somehow related to our main character, and it adds just a little bit more interesting things to it. There's a lot of still influences left and right of things going on from the original Watchmen comics and movie. So if you're unfamiliar with it, it might seem a little bit weird. Well, it is very weird. But the show kind of follows it, like I was saying in my last episode, but not really, but also kind of. It's a Watchmen adjacent. But in this episode, they pretty much do actual story stuff, which makes it a little bit more engaging for me, and I think that's why I liked it so much better. But for instance, like I said, with the relation of the main character, that was actually very interesting now that we have some mystery to solve and find out what their connection is, things like that, why the chief of police was killed, a lot of various aspects there. But something else that I forgot to mention in my previous video, which I want to talk about in this video, is the character of Jeremy Irons, who has been unnamed so far, but we're pretty sure, and I think it was actually confirmed online, that he's playing Ozymandias, however you want to pronounce it, one of the main characters from The Watchmen. Now, essentially, he's just like a super smart billionaire type. I mean, you can kind of get that impression from him from the show so far, without even watching the film or reading the comic. He's just a very arrogant, very rich guy who has somewhat of a really high intellect and like some kind of a strength type of thing. It's really weird. But what's really interesting about this episode is that we get to see him be less weird and pervy and naked getting washed in a chair while he's on the typewriter. But we get to see him putting on a play. And with his sort of butler and maid that we met in the previous episode. So what I really liked about it is that we find out a couple of things. Number one, the play that he's recreating is actually the story from Watchmen about how the guy became Dr. Manhattan and became blue, and how the watch was in the thing, the experiment, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember the name of it. That they were testing. He gets locked in there and gets essentially disintegrated to eventually become Dr. Manhattan and come back all blue and everything. But also in correlation to that, the characters of like the butler and the maid are actually clones of some kind, as there are other people working for him on his estate, for lack of a better word, that kind of wear hoods. And it turns out that they actually have the same faces as the butler and the maid. So we're assuming there's some kind of clones, which automatically raises my interest level, just because he ends up killing one of his clone guys in this Dr. Manhattan sort of experiment thing. So how they're going to progress, does he even care about them? Because at first I honestly thought that they were robots from the previous episode. But it turns out it looks like they're more like clones, because he actually does have a physical body that gets burned, and he ends up dying for the main butler guy. But he gets replaced by essentially himself. Again, big questions on Watchmen, but Watchmen has always asked a lot of big and weird questions that are always difficult to answer, which has made it resonate through the years since it was created, and it's kept its popularity up because of that reason. So this just adds a really good level of intrigue for me that I'm really excited about. I think Jeremy Irons is probably my favorite character of the series so far, even though we haven't had a lot of time with him. I just think that he's just like this weird sort of kooky guy that I have a lot of interest in seeing more of. Plus the whole clone robot aspect just sky high through the roof in terms of what weirdness that I want to see. But overall, I think this episode, like I said before, was way better than the first one. A lot less world building, a lot more story, a lot of questions that are being answered that now have my interest about the main character and the guy in the wheelchair, about what's going on with the chief of police, how he got killed, and if other people have superpowers in relation to like the white supremacist group that they're in, like always interrogating and trying to bring in to really figure out what's going on, why they're killing police again. And going back to the Ozymandias storyline, a lot of big questions that now actually has my intrigue, where the first episode really didn't have me going there. Yes, it had a lot of cool things and interesting things to possibly get me to be interested, but now that this second episode has come out, I'm a little bit more invested and will definitely be following up with this series, hence the Watching Watchmen series. So those are pretty much all of my thoughts on season number 1, episode number 2 of Watchmen. Let me know if you have seen the episode, what your thoughts are on it. Did you like it? Do you feel like you're probably going to quit the show? Is it just too different from the Watchmen franchise that you just can't even get into it? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. But really, other than that, that's all I have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this series, Watching Watchmen, alongside with Titans Talk, which is also on my channel. Now we're on season number 2 of Titans, so be sure to check those videos out as well if you haven't already. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.